is a world without promise, progress, potential, possibilities. Once the prospect of energy meant a distant grid, a diesel generator, and an exorbitant bill. Today, in Gujarat, energy means freedom. The freedom to farm, to learn, to build, to manufacture in an environment-friendly way, to breathe cleaner air. As we approach Viksit Bharat at 2047, alongside historical milestone of 100 years of independence, we are also in pursuit of energy independence. An era, Amrit Kal, where every home, farm, factory and vehicle is powered by clean, reliable, affordable and sustainable energy made in India for India. With 5 impactful climate goals declared by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi at COP26, the country has committed to 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel installed capacity, 50% of energy requirements to be met from renewables, reduction in CO2 emissions by 1 billion tons by 2030, a drop in emissions intensity by 45%, net zero by 2070. Gujarat has established itself as a leading state in the field of renewable energy. With an aspirational target of contributing more than 100 gigawatt to India's renewable energy commitment, Gujarat leads the way. This is the land where the world's largest hybrid renewable energy park is at an advanced stage of development. Gujarat is building robust green energy corridors to deliver renewable power at the doorstep of all categories of consumers. It is powering the future. By 2030, Gujarat will produce 3 million metric tons per annum, 60% of India's green hydrogen target. Gujarat is creating a full circle ecosystem. Fuel, infrastructure, circular economy and employment, all dovetailed for inclusive growth. From national priorities like the National Solar Mission, PM Surya Ghar, National Green Hydrogen Mission, PM Kusum and the Nuclear Energy Mission, to powering next-gen industries in e-mobility, offshore energy and pumped and battery storage solutions, Gujarat is embracing a whole-of-government, whole-of-society approach to clean and green energy. And in oil and gas, recent advances like ethanol blending, bioenergy and UrjaVarta will go a long way in reducing dependence on fossil fuels. Alternatively powered by green energy, we build today for ensuring a cleaner and greener Mother Earth for all.
हमें 1 साल हो गया है सोलर पैनल्स लगाए हुए और सबसे बड़ा फ़ायदा तो यही है कि मतलब बिल्स एकदम कम आ रहे हैं, कम यानी वी आर गोइंग इनटू क्रेडिट्स.
Gujarat's renewable transition reflects the core of mission life, empowering citizens to adopt climate action through sustainable choices and an ecosystem that brings together technology and talent for the greater good of state and the nation. Where farmers become prosumers, industries become partners, and youth find green jobs with a purpose.
ऊर्जा के क्षेत्रों को ध्यान में रख करके 11 वर्ष में सोलर एनर्जी 30 गुना बढ़ चुकी है. भारत मिशन ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन लेकर के आज हजारों करोड़ रुपए इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है. न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी पर भी बहुत बड़े इनिशिएटिव ले रहा है.
An energy revolution led by Gujarat for a Viksit Bharat. Let's join hands to make green energy an assured commitment for the growth and prosperity of mankind.
panelists, industry leaders who are gathered here in the heart of Gujarat for the vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference. It's my privilege to host this panel discussion on UrjaVarta Mission 500 Gigawatts, a mission that epitomizes India's ambitious commitment to transforming its energy landscape through renewable energy. Gujarat has been a trailblazer in the clean energy development, and this conference continues that legacy by fostering knowledge and partnership building. We are honored to have a group of eminent experts, industry leaders with us to share their insights today. So may I request our esteemed panelists to come to the stage. I will request Shri Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairman, Central Electricity Authority, to please come on the stage. Shri P.K. Pujari ji, former Chairman, CERC and the moderator of the session. Mr. Erik Solheim, former Minister of Environment, Norway. Dr. Rajul Gajjar, Vice Chancellor, Gujarat Technical University. Shri Anand Kumar, former Chairman, CERC, Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission. Yes. And Shri Kunj Shah, CMD, Zodiac Energy Limited, and Chair Energy Committee, Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. May I request Shri Kamlesh Jangit to please, Director of Finance, to please come on stage and give a memento to Shri Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairman, CEA. Actually quite cold, yeah. May I request Mr. Nitesh Vidarkar Juvenile to facilitate Mr. P.K. Pujari, former Chairman, CERC and the moderator of this session. May I request Mr. Kandarp Mistry from Juvenile to facilitate Erik Solheim, former Minister of Environment, Norway. May I request Ms. Bhakti Samal, to Joint Secretary, Energy and Petrochemical Department, to felicitate Dr. Rajul Gajjar, VC, GTU. May I request Mr. Rutvij Patel from Gatri Juvenile to felicitate Mr. Anand Kumar, former Chairman, GERC. I request Mr. Parth Patel from Gatri Juvenile to come and felicitate Mr. Kunj Shah, CMD, Zodiac Energy. It's a privilege to have you on stage. I would request Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairman, CEA, to kindly come on stage and give a keynote address.
Good morning everyone. All the dignitaries sitting on the dais and off the dais. Let me at the outset thank the organizer for inviting me to be a part of this particular important session and do some Varta on 500 gigawatt. Ever since we started the journey of renewables in the country, maybe I'll say around 12 to 14 years back, initially the pace was quite slow. I think till 2013 we were just around 2 to 3 gigawatt of renewables in the country. Wherein immediately the number was given to us to go to 175 gigawatt by 2030. That was the initial number which was floated. At that time also we thought how we will achieve this number of 175, having a very very low base in this in the system. Number one. Number two, at that time the cost was also very high, and because of the characteristic of renewables, we were also not very clear how it is going to be integrated into the system. So these were 3-4 issues which was holding us back from taking renewables at a faster pace, wherein the world was moving at a much faster than what India was doing at that particular time frame. But the journey started. We did a number of studies. Academia is also here. So she was telling that, do you do some studies to really come to and arrive to these numbers? Yes, we do these studies. Initially, we did take help from some of the international universities also. Particularly in 2014, I still remember we had a team from University of Berkeley, and we jointly discussed CA, Grid India, now Grid India, at that time it was POSOCO, and we had deliberated on the large scale integration of renewables into the system. That gave us a huge amount of insight how the internationally the variability part is being handled, when it getting integrated into the system beyond a certain percentage, how it is going to behave, and what are the nuances of all these aspects. That report was published, and that had all action points. I still remember it was around 22 action points, and while the committee was deliberating on these action points, we were taking actions as well. So by the time we brought out the report, we had already been done with at least 7 to 8 of the action points, and we started going on to this. So what I was trying to tell you is, yes, initially the slate was open, and we had to write the journey of renewables in the country, starting with a very meager number, trying to achieve a certain goal. But the moment visibility started, the moment we started integrating largely into the system, and when we were approaching a number of 100 gigawatt of renewables, I think that was a turning point. And then we said, okay, I think the country is making a good progress. Can we revise these numbers as well? And suddenly you found a number of 500 gigawatt, which was announced by Honorable Prime Minister. And that task was given to us, saying that you have to achieve 500 gigawatt by 2030. And this, of course, was again all planning started hovering around 500 gigawatt. How do we achieve it? Do we have a mandate? Do we have a demand corresponding to this? How do we create demand? How do we develop the areas where it can be brought out? So the planning started from the locational aspect, which are the states where it can be done. Definitely the 8 states were identified at that time, and Gujarat was one of them. Gujarat, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Maharashtra, MP, Telangana, Andhra, all these states were identified, and we said, okay, let us concentrate on these 8 states wherein we can put in more of renewables as we go along. Of course, out of these, the 2 major states of Gujarat and Rajasthan, where we found land which was in plenty and not much of a constraint in terms of transmission as well. And that is how these 2 states we focused majorly and we said, okay, can we reach up to almost around 100 gigawatt in Gujarat and slightly 100 gigawatt plus in the neighboring state of Rajasthan as well. Another challenge that started coming in this area is, if I have to integrate so much, then how do we really try to adjust this quantum in the grid? Right now, we just have 50% of capacity, installed capacity in terms of non-fossil fuel, majorly coming from renewables. Still, we are finding huge amount of issues coming in the grid, and these issues are in terms of the trippings, in terms of the loss of resources that comes into the system. In Rajasthan alone, during last around 13 to 14 months, we had around 70 trippings going up to 7,000 megawatt at a single point of time. So this will go on, but we need to find solutions, and we need to see how it can be mitigated as well. Question comes is, what should be the right mix of these numbers if I have to achieve 500 gigawatt? 2-3 studies that was done initially as a part of CA study, and we came out with these numbers in 2030 time frame, which clearly gives us the roadmap of achieving 500 gigawatt by 2030 time frame. Of course, right now, if I say that this number has become old, because we are already have a number of around 600 gigawatt going in 2032 time frame. The study for 2047 is also out, and we say now that we have to go 2000 gigawatt plus in that time frame. And very recently, we have also been trying to do a roadmap of going to net zero by 2070, which is India's target. The studies report have been submitted to Niti Aayog, and hopefully that will get published very soon. The deliberations are all going on there. The high-level committee is working on it to take the final decision on. But anyway, the point that I was trying to drive is 500 gigawatt. The moment it was done, the studies from the resources side, where it has to be made, where it has to be planned for, what are the facilitation that is required to be done. Then came the question of, the moment these were identified, then the question was, how do we evacuate this power from these resource places to the load centers and the places where it will be required. So we quickly made a transmission plan which was commensurating with 500 gigawatt integration in the country, and that was released somewhere in 22, and after that became a bible for 500 gigawatt plan, and we started doing transmission investment as per that particular plan. Of course, there are certain changes depending on the real situations that is happening on the ground, but by and large that has remained. And why I'm saying is there are changes is because this entire system becomes very dynamic, and in a dynamic situation, when the things you are planning, as place where it is may come or may not come, and certain other places where you have planned for certain capacity, but some more capacity is likely to come at that location. So this requires the changes. For that, what we did, we said, okay, why don't we make a transmission plan dynamic, and so that we keep on revising every 6 months. So ISTS plans, that means interstate transmission system plans, are now being revised every 6 months. So it has been made dynamic to this extent, and these reports are made public as well. That means where these transmission lines are going to come, in which time frame it is going to come. So it is made visible to all the RE developers as well. So they can also plan to acquire land or to do all kinds of preliminary work at that substation, so that both of them gel together in a given time frame. After we did this, what we found is there are the development towards the intra-state transmission segment has slightly taken a back seat the moment the demand for ISTS increased because of two reasons. One was the planning and visibility, and the second was because of the waiver of transmission charges in the ISTS framework. So we said, okay, why don't we withdraw this ISTS, because nothing is happening within the state, and there are certain misuses of ISTS network as well. And the focus now is, can we have a good detailed intra-state plan giving a visibility of next 10 years? And can we make those plans also dynamic? So from this year onwards, sir, we have started in CA making the transmission plans also. Besides the resource adequacy plan, which we have already given to all the DISCOMs, 2 rounds have already been completed up to 34, 35, and the third round of resource adequacy plan for 35, 36 is on way. We have already completed around 11 states of resource adequacy there. And in transmission, this is the first time we are doing for all these states for next 10 years again. We have completed around 10 states of transmission plans as well, and we have given to these states. And these states, they have started 2 things that has given them. That is, one is the visibility, which are the investment plans that they have. And based on that, either the STU or the people have started going for the tariff-based competitive bidding. So similar to what we are doing in case of ISTS network. And that has given a good visibility to the RE developers. Say, for example, in case of Rajasthan, we could identify 32 gigawatt, which could be evacuated through the ISTS network. And these lines, being a shorter lines, can be constructed in a much shorter period of time. So that kind of a visibility, with that kind of a visibility, the renewable integration becomes much faster, and that can be locally utilized. With transmission loading, the cost of transmission also reduced. Because anything now that I try to do from Rajasthan, which demands me for HVDC lines, and HVDC lines, there are 2 constraints as of now. One is, I have to wait for 5 to 6 years to get that line completed, which is not matching in any way with the commissioning of these RE segment. Second is the cost, and HVDC cost is roughly 5 to 6 times than the cost of AC lines. So both of them are playing a negative role. But then, if I have to do a large evacuation from Rajasthan, I have no option but to do that, and we have already planned few HVDC transmission lines there. But what happens is, I evacuate these lines, but there are certain strengthening that is required within the system. For that, of course, so far we had been going for all EHV lines, 765 kV or 800 kV HVDC lines. But then, probably that is not sufficient enough, and the moment I took a look at the time frame of 2047, we saw that probably we will have to go for a next higher voltage, and that is 1150 kV HVAC lines, which will be the highest voltage in the country, and similar to some of the other countries like China, etc., who has already gone for 1100 kV HVAC. So we will be of that order, and these lines, double circuit line can carry 12,000 megawatt in a single corridor. So that's the kind of approach, and that's kind of futuristic ideas that we have started incorporating. We have done the initial studies, and we found that there are 8 corridors we have identified as of now, wherein we will be trying to put in these lines so that large evacuations of renewables can be done through these transmission lines. So one is the resources, the second is the transmission line, then third comes is the person or the DISCOMs who have to buy the renewable sources. For that, definitely, as per the policy as of now, we initially did renewable purchase obligations, which now is translated into renewable consumption obligations under the Energy Conservation Act. So this is going to be an enabler for the DISCOMs to buy certain quantum of renewable energy for their in their kitty. And when we do the resource adequacy planning, we do take into factor the minimum obligation that has been given to all the DISCOMs, so that at least we are able to achieve. And this has been worked out, taking 500 gigawatt of renewables into consideration, so that by the end of the day, we are able to achieve to these numbers. Now, where we are right now in terms of 500 gigawatt, you already know that we are somewhere around 250 gigawatt of renewables as at present. Roughly 158 gigawatt is under construction. Roughly around 60 gigawatt is under bidding stage, So, and if I take hydro also, include hydro also into this account, so we are somewhere around 474 gigawatt, which is a visual scenario at present. So you are left with only 26 gigawatt if I have to achieve that number. Of course, there are challenges within this kitty as well, and the challenge is that roughly around 40 gigawatt of project which we had finalized is yet to have a PPA, and that is how it has not taking off. We are trying to find ways and means, either this we take an alternate route to resolve these particular issues. Of course, these issues will keep on coming, but still next 5 years is left to me, and within 5 years I have to simply complete this number. So at least I am confident that we will be able to achieve this numbers with the help of all the three stakeholders, whether it is coming from the resources side, which is primarily being done by the private sector, and the private sector investment absolutely as present is no issues at all. Transmission segment already planned, integrations is happening, implementation is happening, and the demand side, that is the discoms, they are geared up to buy this power. Now to support RE integration, one more element was required, and that is how do I balance this, because I'll be having surplus power during the solar hours. So I needed storage. So the storage will be coming from the battery energy storage systems or hydro pump storage. So both of them are now being given push. Central government has already given VGF schemes, and these two VGF schemes is already in place. One is for 13,000 megawatt hour, the other is for 30,000 megawatt hour. States have already been allocated these capacities, and they're going ahead with the bidding. Second is in terms of the hydro pump storage. Hydro pump storage from this year, it has already started kicking in. There was a long wait for hydro capacity. Earlier we were struck at 4.7 gigawatt of installed capacity in the country for around roughly 10 years or more than 10 years. But this year we are going to commission around 2.8 gigawatt, next year around 2.6 gigawatt, and going so forth and so on. And from 28-29 we'll be touching 10 gigawatt plus. Right now, sir, roughly 12 gigawatt worth of project have already started and is under construction. Roughly 6 gigawatt worth of project which is already conquered, and they will be doing just after the environment clearance, that also will take off. Rest around 74 gigawatt of hydro pump storage is under the survey and investigations, whose DPR is under preparation, and we are hoping that these projects are likely to will be taking shape very soon. So by 32, we are expecting a capacity of around 50 to 60 gigawatt in the pump storage side. So whatever is the variability, whatever is the balancing requirement that I'll be needing with respect to renewable integration of 500 gigawatt, I think we will be geared up with the storage systems and hydro PSPs, which will try to take care of my grid requirement as well, because these hydro PSPs will also be helping me to stabilize the grid and try to have enough inertia into the system, so that at least my grid is not disturbed. Third and the fifth element that comes in here is we have to very quickly go for time of the day tariff, so that at least we are able to shift the demand to the coincidental with the solar peaks. And by and large in the country it has happened. Most of the states, they have tried to do this, and that is how we are experiencing the national peak during the solar hours. Even 250 gigawatt or 243 gigawatt this year has happened during the solar hours, and absolutely there is no challenge to meet this kind of a demand during solar hours. But the challenge that comes now is, even though the demand is lower during the non-solar hours, that is the evening hours, because at that time solar is not there, so we definitely do have certain challenges at those point of time. And during the high demand period, which normally exists around 40 to 70 or 80 days in the country, this demand period definitely we do face some kind of a capacity constraint. And this year also we had to run gas-based power stations costing around 14 to 15 rupees per unit at that time. So we need to quickly move towards hydro pump storage or the storage system, so that at least we don't have to run a costlier segment or costlier resources in the country as quickly as possible. So these are some of the things I thought I'll give you an exposure where we are on the 500 gigawatt of integrations. and what we are aiming at in a time frame of 2032 or 2034-35 or in 2047. Probably, I think the industry, the discoms, the states, all the stakeholders, policymakers, the government, everybody is geared up so that at least we are able to achieve this kind of a target. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for the keynote address. Now I would like to open the floor to our moderator, Shri P.K. Pujari, who will guide us on this important discussion. Over to you, sir.
हेलो थोड़ा हेलो good morning to all of you, and thanks to Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairman CA, for elaborating the various initiatives that has been taken by Government of India along with the other stakeholders, namely states, for addressing the few challenges that he highlighted in achieving the 500 gigawatt target that you have set for the country. As you all know, India is committed to net zero by 2070, and renewable energy is critical if India is to achieve its net zero goal. And we are in fact on track, as he mentioned. In the Paris agreement, we had committed that we'll be achieving 50% of the total installed capacity from non-fossil fuel generation by 2030, but right now, as he mentioned, already we have achieved about 50% of the total installed capacity comes from the renewable sources. So we are well on track, and the general growth also of renewable, if you look at in the last 10 years, we have tripled our installed capacity, and generally we seem to be on track. But the challenges are there. Some of the challenges he has mentioned, some of the challenges also he mentioned how the Government of India is planning to address them. But power sector, unlike many other energy sectors, are a special sector where both the states and the center has to play almost equal role. And so the coordination or coordinated functioning of the sector along with policy and regulatory framework is key. What I will, we have a very strong panel. So we have strong panel, so I'm requesting for the introduction of the panel.
Yes. So in our panel, we have Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairman, Central Electricity Authority. We have Erik Solheim, former Minister of Environment from Norway. We have Dr. Rajul Gajjar, VC, Gujarat Technical University. We have Anand Kumar, former Chairman, Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission. And we have Mr. Kunj Shah, CMD, Zodiac Energy Limited.
Thank you. And so, as you know, we've got a strong panel, both from academia, private sector, and also from the regulatory and policy institutions. So my first question will go to Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad. He has mentioned some of the challenges, but what basically comes out that as you mentioned, if we are going to achieve 500 gigawatt, the role of private sector is key, and the private sector has their own challenges which needs to be addressed. Secondly, there is also, if you look at recently, because of surplus not being available in the non-solar hour, there was an announcement of additional fossil fuel-based generation capacity to be installed. So that's announcement announcement has been made by Government of India and pushed for it. So how is it going to impact the renewable sort of scope? Thirdly, it is the transmission is one of the constraints that has been highlighted along with the balancing issues. But transmission, one is the cost. If you look at the transmission, one is ultimately the cost of the transmission, and secondly, the ISTS may be strengthened, but then how are you going to push the intrastate transmission? Because once the waiver is coming to an end, there will be sufficient incentive for the generator to get connected to the intrastate system. So intrastate system needs to be strengthened, and for that, the CTU has to play a very, very close role with the STUs in planning. And so Government of India also has to step in. The issues of land acquisition, issues of doing the transmission in time, that's key. So I just like to understand from Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, from policy perspective, regulatory perspective, how these issues are being addressed.
Thank you, sir. The first thing, probably, this is every time it is being asked to me is why are you pushing coal when at the same time you are also saying that you are also moving towards energy transition and trying to see the renewables getting integrated into the system. There are 2-3 reasons why we have tried to push in coal right now. One is there is a wide difference between the other countries and the Indian scenarios. Let's understand this very clearly. One is we are a growing economy and growing at a much, much faster pace. And if you see that pace of growth is anywhere between 7%, 8%, or could be even higher, which probably the areas which are not being captured at all. It's only the limited areas where you are capturing the growth and you are trying to announce this growth rate. But my understanding is probably we are growing at a much, much faster rate. And if I have to take this growth into account and try to keep the price of electricity also under check and balances, then I have no option but to have some more capacity which needs to be integrated into the system. Just now I mentioned about the losing inertia that my grid is having, and because of which there had been some kind of incidences that has been happening, and where we have been losing generation because of those incidences. Of course, there are technical reasons, technical solutions for those as well. But if I have to maintain those kind of inertia, then I need rotating mass into the system. And as we are the oldies, maybe young generations will have a different solution. But at least to my understanding, we need to have these kind of generating stations, which gives me a predictable source of supply. And that predictability comes from the coal-based generations, hydro pump storage, nuclear. This is another push that the government has taken. It's not only the coal we are trying to add. Coal we will be adding to a certain years only, not beyond that, but definitely nuclear will try to replace the coal base, and nuclear also has the similar inertia ability to support the grid. So this is where we have, and sir, most likely till 34, 35, probably we will be trying to add coal, and that will be the time when it might peak as well. Of course, the time will tell what are the development, what we had planned in the other segment, other mix, whether that is coming to that extent or not, depending on, we'll keep on revising our projections. But as of now, definitely we are likely to touch around 307 gigawatt by 2034-35 time frame. And accordingly the plan have been there, and we have already geared up in that. The already in the pipeline of 97 gigawatt, I think 72 gigawatt is already in the either in the construction phase or has already been bidded out. Remaining 27 gigawatt will be done very quickly. Coming to transmission, definitely, as I mentioned, that there was a bottleneck in terms of the intrastate not being developed because of the free ISTS that was being provided. So the moment we have withdrawn this, now there is a push towards the intrastate transmission system planning as well. In fact, last year when we are releasing a national electricity plan on transmission, which CA almost releases every 5 years, what we found in that plan is there are hardly any state who are doing a transmission plan, intrastate transmission plan for next 10 years. Their visibility used to be either 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, nothing beyond that. So we took a decision that why don't CS supports this and try to have 10 years visibility of in all the states, and that will gel towards, and that will also lead to upward or the downward transmission systems to be integrated. That means ISTS, intrastate, and the distribution network. All these three align together. So all these, the 10 years plan is definitely is going to help us, sir. This has led us to a huge amount of requirement in the intrastate segment the moment we started doing this exercise, and we found that if I have to really go for higher number of integration of renewables, I'll be requiring more amount of transmission line, and the STUs does not have the bandwidth to do these numbers. So Government of India is planning to go for Green Energy Corridor, phase 3. And so far what we have compiled is the number comes to around 1,80,000 crores of rupees just for green energy corridors, not for other segment. Maybe 30 to 40% of that amount may come, just like what we did in case of GEC 1 and GEC 2. So this is one support that might come from the government. CA has already given this report to MNRE and MOP, and hopefully that will come into the segment. Third very important thing that decision has been taken in terms of transmission expedition is how do we resolve the ROW issues. So recently we have changed the guidelines also, and what we found is the farmers or whoever is the landowner, he is not giving you the land, or he is not allowing you to construct your towers, mainly because the compensation is not adequate. The robust mechanism has been made so that they get the market value of their land, so that they don't have much of issues in terms of compensation. So that has been done. And the last point in transmission is we are trying to solve these issues technically as well, and we are now going to mandate the monopole, the narrow base towers, high capacity conductors. All these we will be trying to do it, or even multi-circuit towers as you approach towards the urban areas or the areas where you are finding ROW as a challenge. Maybe we are also planning to go for some standards of the cables as well, so that we are able to achieve this kind of a goal. So all the issues, mainly transmission has a major challenge of ROW issues and the technical requirements. Both of them we are trying to issue.
Thank you, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad. And 2-3 things come out very clearly. One is that we should be very careful when you talk about 500 gigawatt of renewable, but it's generally the mix which is important, and we should be take note of the mix and the path that we are moving on that. That's important. So that for the planning is key. Second is the state now has to play a more important role as far as the transmission is concerned. Traditionally, the intrastate transmission and the capability of the state and STUs has been weak, and a lot of focus has been on the CTUs and ISTS systems. So now we need to really augment their capacity to really start implementing this the transmission system in time and cost-effective way. So traditionally, earlier most of the intrastate transmission systems were built on cost plus. Maybe the competitive bid has now been introduced in the state level, so that's the way to go ahead. And third is the technology. Technology needs to be introduced as far as, say for example, reconductoring monopole, and so that the existing transmission system or the lines can be augmented for higher capacity, so that you don't have to really depend on ROW. So these are the 2-3 things that we need to really follow. Thank you, Mr. Prasad.
May I request KP Jangid, Director Finance Juvenile, to kindly give us a token gift, sir. Ghanshyam sir.
Okay, we move ahead. My next question to Mr. Eric. One of the key issue that come in when you talk about pushing renewable is the financing. So from your experience, what do you think the most effective global financial cooperation model that can be deployed specifically to push renewable projects in India?
Is it working? Yeah. First of all, let me start by congratulating and highlighting what you are trying to achieve in Gujarat, because that's huge, huge, huge from a global perspective. Except for China, there is nowhere else in the world where there is a plan of 100 gigawatt in one state or one province. You are absolutely unique. I'm sure you will achieve it. And if you achieve that by 2030, if Gujarat was a separate country, not part of the Union of India, Gujarat alone will be the 7th largest producer of renewable energy on planet Earth. And just China is far ahead. All others are at the same level as Gujarat, even big nations. Gujarat will be on the level of Germany or Japan as being big, big, big. So be very confident that what you are doing is very good. And I believe finance is not the main issue, because we have passed the point in human history where solar energy is now cheaper than coal. 10 years ago, for sure, absolutely, finance was the main issue. And a developing nation like India could not afford to go solar because it was an enormous cost. But now, if you switch from coal to solar, it's not a cost, it's a cost saving. Solar is cheaper than coal everywhere on planet Earth, in India, in China, in Africa, and United States, absolutely everywhere. So the main issue for going fast is not finance. The main issue is political stability and good government regulations. And here I think Gujarat is blessed. It's a very stable state politically, and it has a very competent civil service who will, I'm sure, make the right regulation. That is the most important. Adding, of course, comes the issue of battery, because the sun is not shining 24 hours, not even in Gujarat, and there are two sorts of battery. Yesterday I spoke with the Adani Group. Right here in Gujarat, they will set up a 3.5 gigawatt battery, and the combination of solar energy with that battery is cheaper than thermal power. Even solar plus battery is cheaper. So the direction is very, very clear, and finance will not be the main issue, but to make sure that the government regulation and political framework is right. Adding to these batteries, we have pump storage, as you mentioned. 10 days ago, I was in the state of Andhra Pradesh. In Andhra Pradesh, another company, Greenco, private sector is key, Greenco in Andhra Pradesh has set up the first fully integrated energy facility in the world, 4 gigawatt of solar, 1 gigawatt of wind, 1.6 gigawatt of pump storage as the battery. And Greenco will soon roll out a new pump storage in Karnataka, in Madhya Pradesh. There are plans in UP, there are plans in Rajasthan, and the Adani Group have similar plans in other states. And of course also in Gujarat, there are massive plans for pump storage. So these two, the artificial battery and pump storage, will serve as the battery. Finally, there is, in my view, one financial issue which needs to be focused. And that is that if you are poor, there may be prohibitive cost because solar and renewables may have a higher initial cost. A few weeks back, I was in UP and met with a number of people who are running green mills there. They, in the past, paid 40,000 rupees a month for diesel. Now they pay 15,000 rupees a month for solar. You would think every person in the world would want to make that switch. I mean, even if you don't like the environment, you want to save from 40,000 to 15,000 rupees. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why doesn't it happen at scale? Because for a relatively poor owner of a green mill in UP, there is an initial cost. you need to invest in the panels, but after 2 years you are reclaiming it. After 2 years it's a net profit, but initially there is a cost. And the banks, of course, cannot have the smallholders in UP on their balance sheet, so you need some intermediary who bring the finances here, who are bunching together 100 green mill owners into one group, and then the banks can finance this transition. But after 2 years, not only there is a profit, after 2 years the green mill owner is the owner of the solar panels, just my maintenance cost. So this will happen very, very fast. It's happening fast now in India, but I'm very sure it will happen much faster in the years to come, because the dynamics of the economics is not driving this. It's not our concern with climate. I mean, that's very important. It's not even our concern with pollution, which is also very important. It's driven by the dynamics of the market. It's simply an economically viable switch. There is save money if you go renewable, and then the path forward is very, very fast.
So what comes out basically is the availability of fund per se is not an issue, but basically how do you structure the financing and the ecosystem through which the regulatory and policy frameworks operate. The one difference is that if you look at thermal power projects traditionally in India, bulk of it has been are owned by the state government or the central government, PSUs. So the funding there was not a major issue, but in renewable, the chunk and the higher proportion of renewable will come from the private sector, and with intermittency and sometimes the lack of interest on part of the off-taker to get into the PPA, these issues do come in. So we need to look at basically how we're going to structure the financing, and what are the other regulatory or policy framework that we can put in place. And for that, as was mentioned, you look at the innovative financing mechanism also needs to be evolved. So thank you so much, Mr. Eric. Now I'll come to Dr. Rajul Gajjar. One of the other requirement when you push 500 gigawatt of renewable is availability of sufficient skilled and future-ready manpower. So here the academic institutions and they play a very key role in basically putting the training and then making available this manpower. So can you just throw some light on how it is being done?
Thank you. So basically, what has been said so far, starting with the keynote address itself, India is poised, Gujarat specifically. Thank you for mentioning all these stats from the third person view. We say what we do, but then if others say what we do, it has a lot of credibility. And so having said all of this, we have already arrived at whatever goals we had set ourselves for, maybe a little bit earlier. And therefore, the most immediate need that comes out is the manpower, the task force, the kind of dynamic change in the technology that as you keep on integrating, there are new arenas which. So on 3 counts, you need the universities to really interact, especially when there is a private sector that is involved. Who trusts the private sector versus the government agencies? The university. The university can play a huge role in terms of certification, in terms of stating that these are the skills that so-and-so people, the whole task force, the manpower that is needed, needs to really at a very fast scale, we need to create that manpower. So in our basic curriculum, we've made all these changes. We've brought in a lot of skills, hands-on, but there is a lot that along with industry, we need to really change the assessment. The assessment is where it makes a huge difference from the old university system where you write papers and you are examined. But this is where the industry and the government bodies, all the regulatory bodies can also play a huge role. That how is it that you measure them? We can put them on field, they can be checked for those skills, and that is how the assessment is going to really create the task force, the manpower that is needed at many levels. It's not just the technicians. There will be many levels that you need to define. So we need to create these cohorts where in advance industry हो जाती है, infrastructure बन जाता है, तब जाके बोलते हैं हमको ये चाहिए. ये नहीं होता है. आपको 2 साल पहले हमें बता देना पड़ता है, at least 2-3 years to create that task force. So parallel to the infrastructure is where we need to sit down together, create those bodies which define that this is the source that can provide the hands-on, the skills. You cannot set up labs on such large scale. It has to be on ground, in field. Many good examples are coming forward now, where the industry itself is setting up a small facilities so that आपको directly वहाँ पे transition नहीं होना है, उन facility में train होके हम उनको credits दे देते हैं, हम उनको internships भी दे देते हैं और degree भी मिल जाती है साथ में. Along with that, we also have set up a skills task force in the university itself. We call it the Syama Prasad Mukherjee, our first industries minister, to have the industry task force. Industry में जो workforce है, वो कहाँ जाएगा? उसको तो ये फिर से degree, diploma, certification लेने का time नहीं है. तो जो भी आपके defined courses हैं, वो courses हम यहाँ पे चला देंगे. Along with the industry, along with the regulatory bodies, we are able to create these avenues where the task force can come over the weekends, hybrid manner, and 3 months, 6 months, depending on the needs. So this is another flexible route for the task force that is created. Having said all of this, for the current students who can be industry ready, for the task force that is already there and you want to retrain them, there is a lot of research and development. So we have, our schools have these research facilities where the mentors, the scientists who publish, who patent, apply and get the funds. That is where we need all the problem statements. All our PhD, we have about 17,000 PhD holders. We are spread all across the state. All the technical institutions are with us. तो PhD के problem statement भी हम क्यों ऐसे ना करवाएं जो industry और जो government को required है. ये हमें प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स आगे से दे दीजिए. बहुत डीप रिसर्च, आपको रिसर्च में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना पड़ेगा. Along with industry, we'll be able to come out with very, very good solutions. And the third most important force that the universities now have is the innovation ecosystem. There is a huge possibility. जो आपको टाइम भी नहीं है, आपका बैंडविड्थ भी नहीं है, आप सोच भी नहीं सकते हैं, वो सैंड बॉक्सेस हमारे पास है. वहाँ पे हम ये प्रॉब्लम्स दे के, there is room for failure. There is room to reinvent. And so these three are the important, very important focus points that universities bring in terms of the task force, the startups, as well as very good R&D. Thank you.
I think the point that comes out is that I think when we plan infrastructure and technology at the same time, for manpower planning also should be do together concurrently, so time on time. So obviously it can't be made available overnight. So we should not get into an avoidable issue. This is absolutely an avoidable issue. So we should be careful about that. So now I come to Professor Anand Kumar. As was mentioned, the power sector, both the state and the center have to play very, very critical role, and their undertakings both in the state and the center also have to in a coordinated manner. So, and you heard what Chairman CS says, that now a lot of focus is coming on the state to really perform. As a state regulator, you have been state regulator in a couple of states. What do you think the regulatory and policy framework should be in the state, so that they create that ecosystem for the state entities to perform the way we expect, so that we can really achieve that 500 gigawatt of renewable?
Thank you, Pujari sir. First of all, I would like to say that I was a former regulator. I worked in many states, but now since I am in IIT, I will also put a, I will give a strength to Ms. Rajul, her viewpoint that yes, the academic institution can also work with the regulatory system and design some sand toolboxes where we can do the researches. We can do the researches and find out the solution. So this is very important, because recently what happened that I have gone through a Ofgem regulator, who is the regulator in Britain. They have come with a sandbox order. They have said that this sandbox order will be open to anyone who can come to the regulatory body. They can suggest their innovation, or they can suggest their projects, and then they will facilitate them by relaxing the by relaxing the condition of their license or the norms of their regulations. So this is very important. They call it derogation. So it means that we can also go for it and give the chance to for the research where a lot of brain power is working. So it is one thing. Now, as far as sir, you have rightly pointed out that state has a role. State has a role to implement the national level dreams, which we have already near to achieve. But my question or my concern is that not reaching the goal is important. I think to sustain that in a long term, it is most important. And that's why I also of the viewpoint that we have to have the resource adequacy system, resource adequacy planning, resource adequacy, submissions to the regulator by a DISCOM is very, very necessary. Because in the resource adequacy, what happened in the earlier days, what we do, that DISCOM comes with their proposal for the next 5 years, next 5-year plan for their demand or generation, their power purchase procurement plan, plus all the expenditures. But what I feel now, we have a different time, different demand. And now solar and wind are very flexible. So we have to have a 15 minutes interval or 13 minutes interval demand and what is the availability of the generating station, and that will give you a fair idea how much reserve we want. Suppose we don't have a reserve. Now we are talking of the reserve, but we don't have a regulation for the reserve. So I think as the question raised to me, the regulatory role is very important. I feel the most important thing is the regulation. I have found that whatever policy you make, if it is not implemented in the spirit, then there is no need of the regulation. So the role of the regulator is very important. And I suggest that, yes, we have to have, if 500 megawatt or gigawatt this thing, renewable energy, we have to have two important steps. Number one is the redesigning of the power purchase agreement. Because what happened, we are following the power purchase agreement which we have been designed a long back, maybe in 2010 or so, or I'm not sure about the dates, but yes, it is an old power purchase system which we are following. Now the system is changed. We can, we can think of the hybrid plant where we can have a battery storage with the wind or solar, and suitably we can redesign our power purchase agreement. So what is the role of the regulator? Regulator, or I'm not talking about this only as CRC. CRC can also step into it. They can also, design a model power purchase agreement which can be discussed among all the regulators in the forum of regulator, and then they can put up for the utilities to adopt it. This is very important because I feel that every state has a different system. They have a different tariff system, they have different commercial terms and conditions. So yes, it should be uniform to de-risk the investment or investors, concerned. And that's why we have to have a standard PPA, so we have to redesign. The second issue is the tariff. Now tariff we are following with the single part tariff. Now single part tariff, the investor feels that they have to have a fixed charges. They have to have a capacity charges. So suppose if they come up with the firm energy, because wind or solar do not have the firm energy, they cannot be dispatchable. So we can have a battery storage and decide for a firm capacity. And if you commit to a firm capacity, then I think DISCOM will also be able to pay them as a capacity charges, which can also give a comfort to the investors and the financial institutions. Because financial institution needs a bankable PPA. If your PPA is not bankable, then they are not going to finance you. So it is very important. Yes, finance is not a problem. The issue is the structuring of the financial instruments where we can go for easy financing. So this is also very important. So two important things. One is the PPA, sir. PPA should be, I think, become the standard for every DISCOM. They can, take minor changes, but the most of the important condition, commercial conditions, tariff, it should be uniformly adopted by every state. And the second thing is we can now think of the tariff. tariff to the generator, and at the same time we can also introduce the time of day tariff demand response system in the consumer side, because now there is a varying supply system. So our demand should match with it. Now the consumers are not being given any incentive. Now why not we give the consumer an incentive to put his demand or shift his demand according to the supply, so that they can also earn from the system. So what happened in Tata, in I think Delhi, they have introduced a system of demand surrender. You can surrender your, or you can shift your demand during peak hours. So they will give you some incentive. They give you some incentive, maybe 5 rupees or 10 rupees in a month. A small issue, a token amount, but they will encourage the consumers to shift their demand, so that there is no need of the reserve capacity. So this way I think we can go for implementing the goal of the.
Thank you, Professor Anand. What comes out, general impression is that the state regulators are much more conservative, and so what comes out is that they have to be much more, what do you call it, go out of their conservation mode and then be more progressive and take a little more risk, because if more and more transmission line has to be, intrastate transmission line has to be set up in states, and now there is waiver is not there, and there is already a talk of two issues are being talked about. Should you have two-part tariff in renewable, and should the must run go? There already a debate going on that renewables should not have any more must run because the time is over. So if these two come in, I mean that you really have to look at renewable in a much different way than since what we have been looking at for last 10-15 years. So there, the state regulator has to really step in and then look at it differently and come out with the innovative regulations. So this, unfortunately, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad or Secretary MNRE is not there. Otherwise, these issues are the one which needs to be really discussed. Should you have two-part tariff in renewables? Should you do away with the must run? So I mean, and it will have different implications altogether. And so anyway, we are not discussing that. So thank you. And now I'll come to Mr. Kunsa. In this move, which lot of investment that you are pursuing, and it is already accepted that yes, unlike in thermal, the role of central sector undertakings, which was there initially, will start to come down. So how do you think the private sector will step in and play an important role? And what are the challenges and constraints that you are looking at? I mean, we need the policymakers and regulator to address those challenges.
Thank you, sir. See, as far as renewable energy investments are concerned, private sector is all gung-ho about investing into renewable energy, because it is the energy transition is a much sought after business in today's economic world. The industry, what industry looking from policymakers or regulators is the stability of policy, like Gujarat rolls out every 5-year policy. At the same time, the policy or regulation should not be rigid. It should have a dynamic component. Or for bug fixing, there are, as Mr. Anand Kumar said, the intent of policy and then the regulation coming out of it are sometimes not matching. So the bug fixing, or you can say the adaptiveness of regulation should be introduced. Policy review should be introduced every year, so that the genuine concerns of industry can be taken care of. Third is the finance. Though the finance is, there comes a equity part and there comes a debt part. About equity, industry is very confident that yes, we will bring the equity required for 500 gigawatt energy transition to renewable. But the banking sector of the country is still having some doubts and some reservations about financing renewable energy projects, and there the government should step in to back the discoms and as Mr. Anand Kumar said, the PPA should be more bankable so that the financial institution can have a comfort level financing the renewable energy projects. Third most challenging for industry is land and ROW. So the clear visibility for land availability should be there, and ROW, so that can be mitigated by Gujarat has started a real very good initiative of no denial policy and connectivity at your doorstep, where the land challenges or ROW challenges can be mitigated, and we should propagate more solar parks kind of thing, or hybrid park kind of thing, where the developer does not face the issue of land availability as well as ROW issues. So these are the but otherwise industry is very upbeat and enthusiastic about 500 gigawatt mission. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a very, very positive sign if that the private sector is equally keen and they're optimistic about participating in this journey. Now, I'll put a question. I think any of the panelists can reply. If Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad would have been there, probably I would have asked this question to him. We are also talking about net zero, and our ambition is not only 500 gigawatt of renewable, but beyond that. Now, purely drawal by discoms or consumption is not going to really be sufficient to absorb this capacity. So we need to, when you talk about net zero, we need to talk about the other sector, mainly transport and industry. So we need to electrify both the transport sector and the industry. And so that role of those sectors are very keen. And here both the government of India policy and the state policies are very important. So what do you think, and how do you, EV is one, green hydrogen is one. Basically, again, using green hydrogen in the industry so that you basically replace the existing fossil fuel-based both feedstock and fuel by green hydrogen. Go for EV, go for hydrogen vehicle, hydrogen maritime ships. Now, these are keen, and these have to go in tandem along with the renewable capacity so that we are able to absorb this capacity. Otherwise, again, you will going to have problem. So any of the panelists would like to basically react or comment on this issue, what happening and what you foresee? Is open to any of the panelists. Because Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad is not there, so. Anyone? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Well, this is obviously a wonderful question, but let me share an experience with you which illustrates how fast this change can happen. A few weeks back, I was in Beijing, and I was jogging, running in the morning next to a massive motor road highway. Then I realized, wow, there is no noise. Not only there is no pollution, but there is no noise. Why? Every single bus is electric. Every single taxi is electric. Every single two-wheeler is electric. They don't accept gasoline motorbikes in the cities. Half or more of all new cars are electric. Even many trucks are electric. This has happened in record time in China. 10 years ago, I would never, ever go running in Beijing. Why would I inhale all that smoke? It was crazy with pollution. Now there is no pollution because they've been electrifying everything in record time. In my nation, Norway, 95% of all new cars are now electric. But go to Nepal, which is a nation much poorer than India, much, much poorer than Gujarat. 80% of all new cars in Nepal are now electric. So this can happen very, very fast, but you need the right government regulations and, of course, looking into it as a business opportunity. And let me highlight one issue which I think is very central, even if sometimes people in India will have some issues with it. But the relationship between India and China is absolutely key in all these areas. And that's why it's so positive that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping now have 2 summits and set the relationship on a positive note. Why is this so essential? Because China is totally dominant in all these sectors. Forget United States of America, forget Europe, sorry to say, forget anyone else. China is 90% of all solar panels, is 60% of all electric cars, and when it comes to electric batteries, which of course are key to the electrification, there are only production of electric batteries in 2 nations on planet Earth, in China and it's in Korea. Nowhere else. So if India want to go fast, it's depending on partnerships with China. But of course India need to make these partnerships work for India. India is not there to support China. India is there to develop its own nation, and Prime Minister Modi has very rightly said, make it in India. So the issue is, how can India form partnerships with the advanced battery companies, electric car companies, electric scooter companies, and makers of solar panels, but structure these parties in such a way that the technology is transferred and it's made in India, and India over some time do better than China. Look, this was exactly what China did. They imported technologies from the United States, from Germany, from Japan, but then they turned them into Chinese assets, and over time they did better. I'm absolutely certain China can do the same. Partner with China, but looking into how entrepreneurs, people here, can do even better than China is doing. But there is no way, if you want to go fast on greening, on electrification, and particularly on batteries, there is no way to do it unless we partner with China.
I can add a little bit. As far as transition from fossil fuel to electrification, recently some companies have come out with electrical boilers. Many steel players who are using blast furnace or coke furnace are replacing it with electric furnace. So slowly and gradually electrification of industrial heating is also happening in the country. Thank you.
So carrying on with Eric's conversation is about low-scale manufacturing, all the OEMs and their suppliers. So the suppliers, the basic problem that we see is between industry readiness that the students and our cohorts and with the industry is the whole amount of regulation, regulatory framework, the understanding and adhering to the regulations is a little bit hazy when we go to those MSMEs, and so the universities do prepare actual hands-on, but there is this regulatory framework which the gap has to be filled. Universities can play a role. Another part that I think that we can play a huge role also is in sandboxes in terms of fintech. When finance is required and you need to really place all those, so we do have our schools which are very strong in fintech, and that is where a lot of innovation and sitting down together will help all concerned, not just the regulators and the industry, but the whole financing part can also be re-looked at it. And the third part is when you transform, Kunj mentioned that you are transitioning from one energy to another. The whole transitioning of those MSMEs and these small industries is so huge. How do they discard one set of equipment and then suddenly get the new one? So there also you need some sandboxing, some innovation, how to transition. It cannot be just knee-jerk reactions. So I think that there's a huge scope, which China has already done a lot with its MSMEs.
I think Mr. Eric has, told us about the China. Yes, China can be compared with India, but India has a unique issue because we are dependent upon the coal so long. We have a resources of 70% of our total requirement through the coal. So suppose if we replace 1 megawatt of our coal plant with the renewable energy, our cost is much more than other countries, because they have 50 to 60% of at least low carbon generation like gas. No, China, yeah, China. I said China is comparable to India, but as you are rightly pointed out, which I have raised in the beginning, that regulatory role is very important in all aspects. Like suppose, for example, China has a strong regulation. Now, what I wanted to tell you that there was a research. Recently, I have gone through a paper written by somewhere in UK about the net zero targets. Now, they have taken the example of UK. They have taken the example of UK because they have projected up to 2050. They will go to net zero. While keeping our condition, we have kept it to 2070. But now we are comparing with UK. They are meeting it in 2050. So they have made a model which is known as brain energy model, which has an algorithm they have based on the Python. Python is a software for optimizing the equations, and then they have run that program on the power sector as a whole, where all the generating stations, the market, where the wholesale prices are determined by the market, and then the discoms are buying it. So they have wanted to see that if somebody has to, suppose, decommission their thermal plant, existing thermal plant, so naturally it is a cost. Then they have to invest in the new generation. So there will be a cost. Suppose the investor comes into this domain, then their share prices, what they will be affecting the market. So they have done this all permutation combination with a long exercise. Finally, they have come to their conclusion. There are 4 stages. One is that strong regulation. A strong relation in the consultation with the stakeholders. It is the best. It is the best, and their achievement of net zero is coming in 2033 instead of 2050. But yes, if you have a moderate regulation, but in connivance with your industries and the consumers, then also they are reaching it to within 2057. So that is also near to the goal because they have exceeded by 7 years. So that is the whole thing. If you don't have the regulation or there is strong regulations are not there, then there is no chance to meet that goal. So India is to be, I think, go for regulation, strong regulation at all level. And one thing I would also like to tell you that there is a book by Scott Hempling, who was a regulator, I think, in FERC, all that. But they have written that what is the regulatory role, what kind of attribute a regulator should have. So one word I just want to explain here: synthesize. They said that regulator should synthesize his action. What is synthesize? That there are a lot of information. If you see in the power sector, it is big of information, big data. So we have to synthesize it and take the useful thing and then give the decision. So for that, I think finally my suggestion is that we have to strengthen our regulatory role in the system to achieve all these things.
Thank you. And of course, one quick comment from my side. It can be challenged, open to challenge. Since we are growing economy, and since our energy demand or power demand is going to grow, so we will not be in a position, or there will be no need for us to really decommission any of the thermal power plants. So what we can do is that we can keep on adding the renewable power plants. So the question of decommissioning and the cost of decommissioning thermal power plant will not probably arise because we are a growing economy and our energy demand is going to grow. But what comes out very clearly is that we need to have focus along with the renewable, focus on net zero and find out where we can use this renewable energy for replacing our fossil fuel that is being used otherwise. Good thing is that even in the high-end trucks, up to 56-ton trucks now are OEMs, 2-3 OEMs have already manufactured and they are already plying on the road. I mean, still is going to catch up, but if you look at the middle level, 16, 17, 20 tonners, most of the trucks, intra-city trucks have been replaced by EVs now. I mean, basically they have gone from the fossil fuel to EVs. There are large number of coming. The higher end we didn't have. So those are now being put on the road. The trial is on, and hopefully if the charging facilities are there, then they can ply. But in a confined area, for example, port, mines, where or the point to point, from port to the warehouse, where the point to point transportation is there, we can design and plan your charging stations and replace those trucks or the tippers or the loaders with electric things which are already available. So a lot of movement is there. Recently, Government of India did come out with a lot of incentives on those things. Hopefully, it will push, and that will give a boost to our 500 gigawatt of renewable. So what, now we are already, I think, close to the closing time. We got about 10 minutes time. So I'll not go for any further questions to the panelists, but I now ask, keep the floor open for questions from the floor. Any participants, delegates, you want to ask any question to any of the panelists, please, you are free. If you don't ask, then again I will ask the panelists. Please, yeah, carry on. Mike there, please.
So the goal is net zero, sir, and net zero on the energy basket. Our electricity basket number today stands at 21%. It's gone up from 18 to 21%. And even with the growth on the entire energy paradigm, at best the electricity would be about 23 to 24%. And these are Government of India numbers. All that we are talking about and continuing to do in the last 15 years is addressing yet only 50% on the electricity segment. So I think the big differentiator of mindset shift needs to happen between energy and electricity. We continue to be calling electricity as energy. The elephant in the room is the 80% of energy, which is cooking, transportation, heating, cooling, hard to abate sectors, and hydrogen is one of the elements which is likely to play there. So my question is, anybody, what are we doing on that 80%, and where is any target on the 80%? Either government, public domain, and that's something which we need to actually, put all our efforts on to bring that to the forefront for the net zero goal. Thank you, sir.
Any panelists want to respond or?
I think it's very important to see that we are only talking of the electricity, while it is, you are rightly pointed out, it is around 20 or maybe less than that. Rest of the segments are untouched. But what I feel that if you see in the last few years, right from 2022, when they have amended the Energy Conservation Act, now the government has focused on the energy now. If you see the Energy Conservation Act, there they have introduced to reduce the carbon. Now to reduce the carbon on the designated consumers. Now designated consumer, if you see the schedule, it is more or less all the sectors, right from the railway, transport, discom, generating company, transmission, cooking, oil, gas, everything. So now they have made RCO. You have recently said that in the opening remark, they say that RCO is replaced. It is not replaced. RCO is for the designated consumers. Yes, RPO, though RCO, and we are not going to debate on the RCO versus RPO, but the Environment Conservation Act 2022 have mostly dealt with the energy sector, where they have given the targets for next 5 years, and if you do not achieve that target, naturally there is a severe penalty. For that they have also given the charge or mandate to the BEE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So what I feel that the government has started working on it, and the result will come maybe in next 5 years.
There are fundamental issue. I'll respond to that. What you say is absolutely correct. There are fundamental issue in our country. We don't have energy ministry. We don't have any forum where energy talk together. It is a fragmented ministry. Coal ministry talks about on its own. The petroleum ministry talks on their own. The power ministry talks on their own. Renewable talks on their own. So there's no coordination. So there is, at the moment, when you talk about net zero, or you need to have an energy forum. Who is going to be? We don't know. Maybe Niti Aayog was supposed to do it, but somehow they've not really focused on that. So now that we have started talking about net zero, initially we focused on the renewable. Now we're talking about net zero. Once you talk about net zero, now there is a need to talk about energy. And this synthesis or the sync needs to be brought in. Now the realization has come in, who is going to own it? I mean, you talk about net zero, I don't understand who owns it. I mean, today also you look, scout for it, who owns it? Nobody. I mean, so they need to have it. And I hope that this realization has come to Government of India, they will start focusing on that. I know, we yeah. Exactly. No. In fact, implementation is not going to happen. For the implementation, And for that, what role basically we look forward is from institutions, academic institutions, and come out with research papers and write up saying that yes, we need to talk in terms of energy, not in terms of electricity alone. It will not lead you anywhere. Even if your renewable targets will fail, if you don't really stick to your electricity, you have to talk about energy and convert all the other energy to electricity based. Any other question? Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, as a moderator also I am replying. So
हेलो सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है कि जो 500 गीगावाट का हमारा टारगेट है बाय 2030, सो उसमें जो अभी कैप्टिव कंज्यूमर्स है, सारे के सारे कैप्टिव इंडस्ट्रीज़ के कंज्यूमर्स है, उसमें पॉलिसी रिलेटेड काफ़ी सारे इश्यूज आ रहे हैं, जैसे कि अभी बैंकिंग की क्लियरिटी नहीं, जैसे कि 2022 जून के अंदर पॉलिसी ख़त्म हो गई, इट वाज डिक्लेयर्ड ऑन अक्टूबर 2022, और वो उसके बाद भी एक साल तक वो जब तक टेरिफ ऑर्डर नहीं आया तब तक खड़े रहे, पूरे के पूरे स्टेट की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, नॉट इवन आस्किंग फॉर द नेशनल, बट स्टेट के अंदर ऐसा हुआ। और राइट नाउ यहाँ पे कोई इंडस्ट्री वाला है तो पता नहीं, बट मोस्ट ऑफ राइट नाउ 30% वाला बैंकिंग वाला इशू है, राइट नाउ इट इज स्टॉप। सो वी आर टारगेटिंग के बाय 2030 वी विल टारगेट 500 गीगावाट, बट हाउ इट कंप्लीट?
I'll answer. See, the as far as your banking question is concerned, there is a industry perspective and there is a discom or regulator perspective. मैं जहांगीर साहब के साथ हमेशा झगड़ता रहता हूँ, but I will try to understand his viewpoint कि अगर बैंकिंग ज़्यादा दे देंगे, then इंडस्ट्री को रात को पावर देने के लिए the other consumers will be loaded with higher price and this thing. So somewhere industry also align with the broader picture, and yes, I do agree that some bugs, that is why I told ke the bug fixing should be introduced in policy and regulation. So every 6 months or 1 year the bug fixing should be there, because the statement in policy and statement in regulation sometimes differ. So I agree with one of your point that the bug fixing should be there, or policy review or dynamism should be there. But at the same time, industry demand jo hai, whatever industry demands, the DISCOM or the regulator has to look at a bigger picture. So we have to balance somewhere, and I'm sure with introduction of BESS, this 30% banking pain will slowly start fading down. Even industry can invest into that BESS and take care of their total requirement through renewables. So yes, I am in a midway between your question and regulator. Thank you.
So that one issue, that policy is live, so that there is no vacuum on the policy side. The second issue is the banking. Industry looks with reference to its financing. We looks with reference to operationality or in technical perspective. We can provide banking, you increase your consumption. What we say that you increase your consumption during that renewable energy more. We are not interested to restrict anyone, but that is a given fact that solar will not be available after 6 o'clock evening, and it's not available morning 7 o'clock. We both put together has to come out the solution like batteries, like pump storage, and that even time of use tariff. The way we will try to find out how we can best do it. But it is a joint kind of assignment where you as an industry has to increase its demand, consumer has to increase demand. There are no problem on the generation side. The problem is on the consumption side. So if we increase the consumption, if we increase up that, then certainly as some of the point has been brought out that there are a lot of space for electrifying in the another area, like in the transport, in the industrial segment, even cooking. this will certainly up our the banking capacity or banking capabilities. But this is on a technical side. What I am saying, it is not. We have to see the issue in a holistic way, not in a one part that I want to do it and I should get like that. But at the same time, you have to see whether it is a technically feasible or not. If it is not technically feasible, then we should make it technically feasible. That is my point.
Thank you. Any? हाँ, जो भी है, आपको
सर हेलो सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है कि रिसेंटली लास्ट 3 और 4 मंथ से सारा कर्टेलमेंट कैप्टिव में ही हो रहा है, थर्ड पार्टी में नहीं हो रहा है। और हम नेट जीरो की बात कर रहे हैं सर, नेट जीरो की बात कर रहे हैं, तो व्हाई वी आर नॉट कर्टेलिंग थर्मल, व्हाई वी आर नॉट कर्टेलिंग कॉल?
कहाँ बात बताइए, ये आई थिंक योर लोकल ऑपरेशनल इश्यूज वी कांट
This is the issue, sir. This
What we have been seeing as a university working very closely with private and the government sector. What happens is, जहांगीर साहब शायद ज़्यादा elaborate कर पाएंगे. Private sector पे depend करना है, ये पूरा renewable में, particularly this sector में. Private sector are the biggest players, उस पे ही depend करना है. The moment policies come out in favor of private sector, झंडा लगाएंगे, privatize कर दिया, सब कुछ खोल दिया. We become really very over democratic. But in that case also they have to cut ends and look at what works, the major outcomes in spite of all the investment that goes in. So ये झगड़ा आपका मीठा झगड़ा है और बाद में उसको
Yeah, my point, we have got a
just point of your curtailment. We don't want to curtail. That is, if I am doing it, I am doing with the pain. It is not that I am also equally responsible person or equally responsible organization, where we don't want that a person invest money and we should curtail it. We are not interested. But as all of the panelists has said, there is a gap between the various segments where we are working. So in initial phases, these problems will certainly comes to us, but we will very shortly overcome all those issues.
I think you take assured that curtailment is the last resort. I mean, nobody wants to curtail. I mean, you invest and generate, nobody wants to curtail. It is just that if that nothing else is possible, is a last resort, it is done. Hopefully, it is done logically. Okay?
Yeah, along with generation, we have got a challenge of transmission and distribution losses also. So initially in India, those losses were almost 38 to 40%, but of late, we are able to reduce it to almost 20% in last few years. So my question is that what we are doing to take care of these transmission losses? I really don't know. Is there any solution of having standalone or localized grids, and when it is required, then we interconnect it, and we have got standalone grids, and in that, then we pump in electricity, and then offset whatever we are losing in those 20%. So what we are doing for reducing this?
No, purely technical losses are not 20%. It is just that commercial losses are there, and then commercial losses also, I think, as far as I understand, they can verify. It is again depends on which discoms you are talking about. So I think it's discom to discom.
See, if you are talking for Gujarat, the position is very, very good. In terms of that losses of a distribution company is below 9% in our case. In a transmission, we have a very good transmission system where we transmit at to 66 kV level. We are not having like most of the state like 33. So we upgrade the voltage level, and then we reduce this transmission losses even up to 11 kV level. We are going, it is 3.5 and 3.6% of our total. So in totality, transmission loss for Gujarat would not more than 11 to 12%. But in country, yes, as again I said, the various states are at a different position. They will have a target to reduce it, and they are making all that efforts in various states. The government of India through various schemes has already put and pressurizing for that. Reducing is substantially and ultimately to benefit of the consumer.
What I said is that it is very specific to the discoms. I mean, many of the discoms, Gujarat discoms are pretty well. Some of the discoms may have problem, but that effort is on. I mean, and there are both technology and governance issue. Both are, you have to really deploy both the governance and the technology to really address those issues. So I think we are coming to the end of the sessions, and thank you so much for to all the panelists for sharing their views, and then to the audience and delegates for asking questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pujari sir, for your time. What an amazing session. So we will be concluding the session. Before that, I would request Mr. Nitesh Bidarkar from Juvenile to felicitate Mr. P.K. Pujari, former chairman, CERC. Can we have Mr. Kandap Mistry from Juvenile to felicitate Mr. Erik Solheim, former Minister of Environment from Norway. I request Shri K.P. Jangit, Director Finance Juvenile, to felicitate Dr. Rajul Gujjar, VC GTU. Mr. Ravindra Kuhada from Gatri Juvenile to felicitate Mr. Anand Kumar, former Chairman, Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission. Can I have Mr. Rutvij Patel from Gatri Juvenile to felicitate Mr. Kunj Shah, CMD Zodiac Energy Limited. Thank you, everyone. I request Shri K.P. Jangir to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and special thanks to Pujari sir, who has come and moderate this program at very short notice, sir, and I really thanks for that, sir. Ma'am has also accepted that invitation as a panelist, and we were having difficulties in that, but Madam has also made it a successful, so ma'am, thank you for that. And Eric Solomon sir is, yesterday night I contact him and then try to get it. So it's really, thank you so much for Anand Kumar sir, I know him and I worked sir, and he gracefully agreed for that as a panelist for that, sir. You come and visited and given your suggestions, valuable suggestions. We will try to implement, and thank you so much, sir. Kunsha is also the same issue we were having. We were having difficulty to get panelists from the industry, but he has also very gracefully agreed and joined that, and he has made it successful. I thank you, everyone. Even I thanks to the panelists. The subject which is being given to us is a very, very live subject, is a subject even if we can continue up to the evening, I don't see that there would be an end to that. But really, every panelist has made very, very valuable and very insightful, and we would certainly try to implement in terms of the policy, in terms of practical issues. From industrial point, some of issues you have raised, we are concerned about it. As I said, we are not the outside. We are the part of the society. We are working as a society, and we work for the society means everyone is contributing in that. There, as I always said, that everyone is not at the same level. Some people may be in advance, some is in between, some is in back end. But we all have a motive, and that the efforts we are continuously making to go up first line. So we will certainly come out all that your problems and concerns, and whatever participants has given a view, we take it very positively. And thank you, everyone. And again, I will convey my thanks from my bottom of hearts to every panelist and every members available present here, and those who has made this program or the session very successful. And I even, thanks to ma'am from IIT, she has agreed at last, I think yesterday evening we tried her to be a compare. So I really, thanks to everyone who has been made this session very successful. Thank you everyone.